this episode, we are here with Essa Sellers, our guest. Essa is a food equity entrepreneur, and we're going to cover some of his ideas on how to make a positive change in underserved communities, starting in Philadelphia. Essa, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Today, we're going to start with some highlights on the who, when, where, and what of Essa and your career.
Okay.
Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Split between Logan and Frankfort, which is in the Northeast.
Nice. Now, do you have a story about like your first job, growing up in Philadelphia? A lot of people start sometimes in like fast food. What's the scoop?
Yeah. My first job was McDonald's, actually.
What's fast food? Now, with health, like
Yeah,
we're going
it's
to try
not
to
the
steer
greatest.
you away.
It was
that.
horrible, honestly. I started working there too, thinking I was going to put myself through school, but that didn't work out. It was too much for me. A little bit down on the energy side, and the smells were horrible.
Well, we know that from a health standpoint, it's not obviously health food, so we're not going to pick on McDonald's and fast food. We just check that off the list. From the education standpoint, with classes, I know you've been involved with some of the work recently with like computer-assisted design. Share with the group a little bit of that.
Design. So I'm at Community College of Philadelphia studying architectural visualization. So basically, this is all of the computer design, like for blueprints, and everything used to be back in the day that everything was done by hand, but now you can do computers and it's way faster. So
I envy your initiative to work with the computers, because I was one of the last groups, I think maybe the actual last year in the early 90s, to take the registration board exam as an architect on paper.
Yeah, on paper. I can't even imagine.
I just at the beginning of the CAD classes.
That sounds fun, though.
Old school. Okay, for the Economy League of Philadelphia, as really a food equity entrepreneur, I heard that they had a Well City initiative, like there were some projects that they're trying to fund, and that you put together a package that would help some of the people in the underserved communities of Philadelphia. Right. So share with us your vision of sort of the abstract and then the details of how that would work.
Right, so the Well City Challenge, they were looking for solutions to heart health and the disparity between different economic background neighborhoods. So my idea has always been food, and I decided to kind of like tailor that to heart health. And recently I came into the introduction of microgreens.
I'm a big fan, so we were part of those conversations.
Exactly. And these microgreens, they're really nutrient dense and they're easy to grow, so it was like a snap solution between like that, like heart health, and my ideas of bringing food production locally in the first place. Like, I think that's the future. Local production and intimate production at home.
I love it, because talk about local, farm to table distance has been an issue, and we've covered it in some of the conversations with other groups as well, where the nutrient loss coming from, say, California, where a majority of the vegetables are grown, all the way to the East Coast, involves putting the plants under a colder temperature than room temperature, like high 30s even, almost freezing. Apparently it's 47% of the nutrient loss over 7 days.
47%.
Like half, right? Crazy. So for those that aren't familiar with microgreens, I knew we were going to have some conversation with that, but hold up and we can display a little bit of the action here, because it's a baby plant, right?
Yeah. Broccoli, arugula, and turnips.
So now these guys are apparently stocking up to 40 times the nutrients of their mature
that's insane.
counterparts, and they grow within a week. And so when you and I had the conversations, was the idea for the underserved communities to just kind of teach them how to maybe start growing some of their own food? Is that what I read about the program?
Yeah, for sure. To introduce people, regular people that go to work every day, need to eat. Everybody has to eat. So I think people that need to eat should have some control over what they eat and how they get it, and means of production.
I know that with the big box and the grocery stores, there's always issues in certain parts of cities, not just Philadelphia, about food deserts, right? That you don't have access, you're not close enough. Well, some of those grocery stores don't have high margins. In fact, many of them don't have high enough margins to justify even sometimes being out in the suburbs. So it's a tough business. I love your initiative to think like we could teach some people in the cities how to grow some of their own food.
Right.
I mean, the Second World War, we had victory gardens. People were growing their own food in the backyard because we were sending food overseas to the soldiers.
See, that's what I'm saying. Like, that is perfect. And I've been talking about, I talk to a friend a lot, and he tells me about the post-war American, like, everything seems so perfect. And I guess we did that because we were desperate, but we are desperate. That's what people need to notice now. Like, we aren't really well off right now. We need to make some changes, and that's the perfect solution right there. Like, we growing food in our backyard, sending it across internationally, like, that's incredible.
It's amazing. And I think what you've touched on that's interesting is if we think about it as warfare, like we are up against a major challenge. In the Second World War, it was like the Nazis, it was like Germany, all that bad stuff. Well, here's what happens now. We don't sometimes see from the news the hardship of what's happening in underserved communities. Mm-hmm. Because so much of the country is focused on their own table of paying the electric bill and the mortgage and all those things. Well, it turns out that we can solve some problems with simple solutions. So absolutely. If you can open the tray set right there, I brought one of the examples that you and I have talked about just to be able to hold up, because it's so easy.
Yeah, like, that's the biggest thing for me.
Having a grow mat and some seeds and a little spray bottle was for us one way to start having a conversation about getting food in the hands of people. And it grows within about a week. Mm-hmm. So talk to the crew here about how this sort of works.
Yeah, so we have the trays here. This is just to hold the seeds, and this is the hemp grow mat. So this is like the biggest part, right? Because you're canceling out the need to have soil like in a large format of that. Everybody doesn't have dirt outside for some reason, but yeah, see.
That's right. Could be someone's apartment building.
Exactly. Yeah, we could do this anywhere.
And you need some sunlight. So the way I understand it, because we've been part of the student farmers group that's been putting some of these together, is one tray, to explain the difference. One has holes.
Yeah, one has holes. The other ones are solid. So this one is that's okay.
No big deal. These are tough enough plastics, right? For the
right. So this one has holes. So this one has to have some kind of base so things aren't spilling through, because you're going to use a lot of water.
And where does this go?
This goes on top of the one with the holes.
Okay, so there's drainage holes.
Drainage holes.
Let the water go through.
Yeah.
Now, why do we need a third tray then in the kit?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, but we have to use this one to cover the seeds in their initial growth stages. So it tells you a lot about it. We have the directions here. So
that's nice.
Yeah. As soon as you put the seeds on, these are the seeds right here. Little packets. They're pre-portioned, right? Yeah, you spread those across the hemp mat, and you start watering them. Just spray a little water on it.
Just regular little tap water.
Yeah. Then you cover it. Within, it was about a night for me, and I started seeing a lot of growth, and it was actually kind of giving me the heebie-jeebies, but it was working for sure. And I think you have to cover it so it's not really interrupted by the outside elements, and it's just doing its own thing with the water.
That germination phase.
Yeah, the germination.
What day are you in? Are you in your second or third day, or when did they?
I'm in my second. Yeah, I'm in my second day.
So they're little tiny yellow sort of shoots.
Yeah.
That
exactly.
come up.
They started turning yellow this morning, I guess, but I checked it last night to water it the second time. Oh my God, it almost ruined my night. It was looking crazy.
Because it looks like it's just growing right in front of you.
Yeah, it's all over the place. It's like, wow.
So what's unbelievable to me is if this is in the tray, like 1/4 of the mat. Right. So that when it's cut to harvest, you get 4 of these containers of food out of each tray. I remember the math when we were looking at it together. There's about $1 of seeds that can make 4 of these containers, and these are selling now in some of the grocery stores for this 1.5 ounces of microgreens for between $4 and $5.
Right.
So if $1 of seeds can make $20 of food, that's off the chart.
Yeah,
now the food's premium food, so what it really comes down to in weight is you got to get close to the head of lettuce or the bundle of spinach, in terms of like nutrient value. Because microgreens have largely been like a garnish for extra flavor and all the rich.
I actually had some the other day.
The antioxidants. We put on the back of this, I remember, you want to read off some of the benefits of the broccoli, arugula, and the turnip?
I want to read the arugula and turnip first, because the broccoli is one I looked into, and it was incredible. So arugula has a lot of sports performance benefits, blood pressure reduction, cancer prevention, vision protection, wound healing, liver detoxification, and prevention of bad breath and body odor.
All things I could use.
Right. Who can? Who couldn't? Turnip has good for healthy skin and hair, reducing anemia, osteoporosis prevention, cancer and diabetes prevention and treatment, and improved digestion, sleep, mood, and sun-damaged skin. Yeah, this is all.
Sounds too good to be true, Issa. So you're saying that these greens, because they're the combination of broccoli, arugula, and turnip,
Right.
have those benefits. And you must have to eat more than one, right? Because these little guys, in terms of the shoots.
Yeah, that's not a lot, but it's dense. It's nutrient dense. Really?
It has some great flavor to it. Try one of those out.
I'll try it then.
So what's interesting, roots and all, is that if it's just a baby version of a plant, right? If it's coming in its first 7 to 10 days to life, it's packed with those nutrients and the flavor before, the way I understand it in some of the reading, before that energy and those nutrients go into the stalk.
Yeah.
So if that food is working,
Try another one. That tastes a lot
it's
better
great.
than I expected it to. I was kind of scared at first.
The fun of learning and having these kind of conversations is discovering things that are new and less scary once you learn about the backstory.
Exactly.
If it's just a baby plant, and it might have that sort of tart flavor, or it might feel like it's a little crunchier than you might expect, well, we have to start to change some habits. Like I remember with avocados, growing up, avocados were like some exotic thing you would get when you went to maybe a trip to Mexico or something, right? With guacamole. Well, now it's a superfood, and everyone has them in the grocery stores, and you put them in salads every day. It's a healthy fat. So what's interesting is if we could help make microgreens part of a food staple, starting with some of the underserved communities, because this tray, the plastics on the tray kits, are a handful of dollars each,
Right.
and you only have to buy them once because they're not going anywhere.
Yeah, that's great.
And then with the mats, the one thing that we're going to talk about in a second here is how if the hemp or sometimes even jute, the mat is an organic, that has another cost that can fall into also that kind of like dollar range. So if it gets to be too expensive every week to buy seeds and the mat, how can we reduce the cost of the mat? Hard to reduce the cost of the seeds, but what's an alternative potentially for this dollar of stuff?
You have an answer?
I'm setting this up. Yes.
Let me get to this. Let me get to the broccoli though, because this is pretty.
Oh yeah, share. Thank you. I forgot we didn't cover the broccoli.
So digestion, immune system, and cancer prevention. But the biggest one is heart health for the broccoli microgreens. And I was looking into it because this is the biggest part of the Well City Challenge. And I was looking into the science of the heart health benefits of the microgreens, and they were saying about the dosage of the certain chemical in it. And I was doing the math, and this right here, it's probably more than that would last you a week of dosage for it to help your
Interesting.
heart health.
So you don't need to eat like pounds and pounds.
You don't need a lot of it because it's so dense. It's so nutrient dense. You don't need.
So the microgreen versus the broccoli.
Yeah.
I'd be curious, and we can do follow up. Hopefully, you'll be a guest again, because the hope for me and the audience again is to learn about the people that are making a change, really positive change, and you seem to be right at the front lines. If eating a whole bundle of broccoli was compared to a smaller version of the microgreen version of the broccoli, it'd be interesting.
Magic.
Into the difference, because I don't have the time to eat like whole bushels of food.
Right.
I love that it's almost like astronaut food. It's like a superfood.
Yeah, it really is. And you can put it like in your smoothies and everything.
So smoothies, I've cut it onto omelets and put it in wraps and salads.
Nice.
I eat every day. I'll grow 2 or 3 of these trays a week, so I eat it almost with every meal. Just throw it in tuna salad sandwiches, all kinds of stuff.
How do you feel?
Feel pretty good at age 56. I'm trying to hold my own, with my planet message.
You look good.
So you as well. Now, with the alternate to the hemp, I did want to bring this up because I got off a call yesterday with one of the founders, Richard Campbell of the GeoAg movement. That's geological agriculture, like rocks.
Yeah,
so,
that's cool.
What's interesting, having tested this over the last 6 months, you don't need nutrients to grow microgreens. It's just out of the water. So the hemp doesn't really have much nutrients. I mean, you could almost use paper towels.
Wow.
It's basically got to have something just to hold the root structure.
Mhm.
See how it creates a little mat of the roots?
Oh, yeah.
So here's what I learned. You deplete the hemp or the jute, and you really can biodegrade it, but you can't reuse it easily.
Right.
Now this happens to be also biodegradable. This is a bioplastic. It's
Really?
from cornstarch.
I had no idea.
Looks
That's
like plastic.
awesome. Yeah, I need to
And
go
this is
grab
one of
it.
the packs, having grown some of these, that I'm going to deliver to the juice pod into the Griffin Cafe. So there's
This
some
is
customers.
Like, this is perfect plastic.
Looks like plastic. It will literally biodegrade within 6 or 8
we need
weeks.
these straws. Where's up with that?
So
No more paper straws. That's crazy.
in the spirit of this whole idea of biodegradability and reusability, like this is bioplastic. This material, feel this cotton feels like cotton. It's actually
Yeah,
soda
it feels
bottles.
Like cotton.
It's like
Wow.
it's like all recycled plastic,
That is
and then
amazing.
some scrap reused cotton mixed in.
Yeah, it feels just like mine.
So anyway, the point is, pause and think for everything we do in life, maybe about what could be done differently.
Mm-hmm.
So I paused to think, if this is a cost, and we're trying to reduce cost each week from $2 down to just the seeds,
Right. I see where you're
what do we have
going
as
with it.
infrastructure?
I see where you're going.
So wait for this. So these are regular old river rocks when you buy it a bag at like the Home Depot or Lowe's.
Wow.
And then underneath it is sand.
Oh, okay.
And underneath the sand is just a one sheet of like paper towel. So I've already grown some out of
Interesting.
the rocks. What I don't have the ability to do, and this is interesting, is pull it out on a pad, meaning this is cut.
Mm-hmm.
So the only way to harvest from the rocks is with scissors,
Yeah.
and you'd cut them, and
That's
then
not
you'd
bad.
throw them in a container, and they would be loose,
Mm-hmm.
cut, which is how 99% of all the microgreens are sold in the grocery stores.
Right.
So I'm going to leave you with this set of rocks, because I gave you, I think you had in one of your kits,
Mm-hmm.
4 packs of seeds.
Yep. Okay,
So I
wanna
want
try
you to
this out?
set up a race.
Ah.
So on your next harvest, not this one, because you got a
Right.
3-day head start.
Mm-hmm.
But after a week, I want you to do a side-by-side, because on May 23rd, the Geo-Agriculture National Conference is a virtual conference. I'd like you to join me and weigh in
Wow.
on the reporting of how the horse race is between the growth rate.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a cap, and I think what we learned from some of the instructions from student farmers is you spray actually the cap
Right.
as well as spraying to keep them moist, and then when you cover it, you create like a humidity environment.
Yeah, that's
So this is
fine.
much heavier, right? Feel the weight of this, because it has rocks,
Right.
unlike this.
Yeah, that's super heavy.
But you understand the horse
Not bad,
race. So now you're going to have a comparison between this organic, jute or
Mhm.
hemp and the rocks. What I can tell you for 100% sure, and it's crazy cool, is with ionization, water, the H in the H2O, hydrogen, can pull minerals out of rocks. So what you're going to see is the roots are going to grab onto the little pebbles.
Mhm. Wow.
They're drinking from the rocks, the nutrients.
No way.
And here's what's so cool. They're good for like 100 million years. You can keep
Yeah.
growing food.
That is crazy. I mean, are you saying eventually, like, let's say it was 1,000,000 years?
Eventually
So
you're
the
going to
plant-
suck all the nutrients out of the
rock
rocks.
would be gone?
No, it'll look like a rock, but it'll be like
Dead
almost
rock.
like bleached out, or I don't know what it's going to
Wow.
look like. How about this? There's so many
That is very
nutrients.
intriguing.
But what's interesting is there's a whole industry to grind up stones and fertilizer, like cow waste, all that stuff, manure into nutrients to fertilize plants.
Wow.
Well, if we're going to be on the windowsill in homes, not just in the disadvantaged communities, but all over the United States,
Mhm.
my dream would be everyone's growing food
Yeah.
instead
Why
of
not?
shipping it around on trucks and trains.
Yeah, it's killing us, bro.
And it is because the output of CO2 for the trucks and trains and the planes
Mhm.
is hurting the environment when it comes to climate change.
Yeah.
And it's also adding cost.
Exactly.
So if we want to solve the food problem, I love what you tried to do with this Well City initiative, and it sounds like if that doesn't go through, there's other plans. I'm going to help if I can. You're going to raise some money to
Oh, yeah.
keep going. But imagine that we could cut the carbon footprint and the cost
And the cost.
and increase the health, right? So you're reducing climate change, you're
Reducing
improving
costs.
the health, and you're reducing the cost.
And you're reducing hunger.
Essa, we've covered a lot, right? We covered microgreens, we covered the hemp and the jute mats, the rocks, the geoagriculture.
It's new.
What do you think makes the most sense in terms of impacting change as quickly as possible for the disadvantaged communities? What can you and I do to make an impact?
That's a good question. I hope I'm going to knock this on the head really concisely. I think it's about empowering the people that we're trying to help, not giving them a solution that's like coming from us to them, but something that's coming from them that's going to be sustained by them in their own will.
They take some ownership of it.
Yeah, exactly. Teaching them, giving them the skills of teaching them how to grow their own food. And I was thinking, once I started the microgreens on the hemp mat, I realized, yeah, it's not that complicated to grow food. I mean, it's water, it's some seeds, and you let it do what it does.
I'm wondering if the YMCA's, if the churches, if some of the schools, like how can we tell our story? Because I'd be your wingman if you want to lead block.
Mhm.
You know, sometimes multi-generational
Right.
kind of expertise helps. You know, we're not like so far apart in age. I mean, 30 years or whatever it is. It's not like I have a wheelchair.
Right.
But I'm just wondering, like, whether we can build. Are there athletes, for example, with
In terms of like outreach.
the Sixers or the Eagles? I'm trying to think of like who we could bring in
Right.
to
That's
help tell
interesting.
the story. Because that's how far can you and I go, right?
Right,
It's
right.
like,
That's a good question. I mean, there are tons of people, but I think just starting the communities is the best way to go. I think there are a lot of community pillars already in place that we could utilize that are looking for stuff like this all the time, like religious institutions, rec leagues, like this rec centers. Everybody wants to do better for their community. And there are a lot of people doing the work. I think we just need to collaborate more, I think.
I like that idea,
Connecting with
that
different people and organizations.
the collaboration. I'm wondering too, I referenced or heard you reference the sports performance for like the arugula. Well, like, do we
yeah.
can find at the Boys and Girls Clubs and that's what I was thinking about the
Yeah, that'd be
YMCA,
pretty
that
cool.
you
Yeah,
bring
yeah.
people in something that they're passionate about, not the like, it's better for climate change
Oh, yeah,
reduction,
nah.
right, and
I feel you.
cost, but like
Yeah.
something that makes them feel
Mhm.
healthier, happier, stronger,
Yeah.
and that they could then tell their friends, you know, maybe we find, I'm just totally thinking out loud on some of the youth, like the basketball leagues my son plays, you know, in one of these teams, and we find some of the stars that are young, hotshot high school age kids
Yeah.
that like start to grow some food and eat it,
We
the
could definitely
microgreens.
Elijah, the fan favorite.
Right, exactly. Your brother Elijah, right? Who I
Yeah.
got to meet. He's what, a junior in
Mhm.
high school.
Yeah.
So, you know, sometimes it takes that tipping point of influencers that don't have to be celebrities.
Right, yeah.
They can be local heroes among their
For
peers.
sure. Yeah, that's the best way to go.
Well, you've got my support if I can help with the science and the math and even some of the support with the funding to get some things off the ground. But
I
want to be
appreciate
there as a support for what could be a new generation of thinking
Mhm.
about health and fitness as well as the sustainability for the planet.
Yeah, I appreciate that a lot.
Essa, thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
To be continued.
Continue.
Take care.
I'm looking forward to it.